Okay, so the whole purpose of this class is to not overwhelm you. It's not to kind of get you to deep dive into some crazy parasite cleanse or something really over the top. The whole purpose of this course is to actually ease you into some sort of holistic health practice, whether it's your diet, whether it's your lifestyle. It's just about taking the first steps towards your journey. It's not about doing anything extreme or anything that can actually harm your body. I get a lot of questions about like what crazy detoxes, cleanses for people to do. And I usually ask them, what does your day-to-day life look like? And they're not doing the foundational things and want to do something really kind of extreme. And I feel like if you're doing the foundational things, that's a really good place to start. And that way we won't harm the body when we do something a little more deep rooted. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Shireen. I'm a registered dietitian turned holistic health coach and practitioner. I specialize in hormone health. I'm also a yoga teacher. I practice Reiki as well with my clients. And I also muscle test and do QRA. If you don't know what that is, it doesn't matter. But I basically work with the person's individual body to see what they need. And this information is actually meant for someone who's generally healthy. There are definitely some alternative health things that you might have to do if you have some sort of chronic health condition or even acute health condition. So today we'll be addressing the foundational elements of what holistic health is. We're going to talk about immune system support. It's huge, especially once the weather starts getting colder and your kids go back to school. Inflammation reduction, it's a huge trigger word. Inflammation is everywhere, and longevity in general. If you want to prolong your life, you want to live a healthy life, it's really important to know what foundational tools to use in order to do that. And then we'll also discuss some functional nutrition with more of a focused approach for the entire family and to be able to optimize health and longevity. You guys, if your camera's not on mute, try to mute it in case there's some background noise, if you don't mind. Thank you. Okay, so holistic health and what the 8 dimensions of wellness actually are. So holistic health is an approach to wellness that takes you as a whole person, not just your height, your weight, your age, your gender. It focuses on the interconnectedness of all the dimensions of wellness. So this philosophy focuses on the imbalances in any of these areas. It's not just one area. So it aims to treat the root cause or the deeper cause of illness through a combination of changing lifestyle, conventional medicine, which we will always revert to conventional medicine if all the holistic stuff or the more natural stuff doesn't work, and complementary therapies such as Reiki, yoga, breath work, nervous system regulation, vagus nerve reset, things like that. So focusing on 3 pillars of health: immune health, inflammation, and longevity. So what is immune health? Immune health is basically the system that keeps your body strong. So strong immune function is really essential for preventing your illness and chronic disease. People who have a weak immune system are going to get sick all the time. They go out, they're going to be the first ones to catch a virus. It's extremely important in keeping a consistent immune health and not putting your body last. When you put your body last, you're going to get sick all the time, but that also makes you vulnerable to more chronic illness. Secondly, inflammation. You guys, inflammation is the root of all chronic disease. So if you're worried about having any sort of heart disease, diabetes, arthritis, autoimmune, any even anxiety, depression, Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer, the things that you think run in your family, a lot of that can be prevented if you're actually able to manage your inflammation in the day-to-day life. We are constantly being overwhelmed by things in our environment. Being on your device all day, having your phone attached to you is already creating a vulnerability to your body. We're getting, air that's not optimal. We're also eating food that's not optimal. So being able to manage your inflammation actually helps your body fight all of those things a bit better. And then longevity is basically supporting the body's ability to age healthfully and gracefully through balanced nutrition, active lifestyle, and stress management. Stress management is huge. If you are not managing your stress, none of this other stuff is going to work. So that's really key in the management of all of these things and preventing chronic health conditions. So let's kind of look at what an anti-inflammatory diet may look like. We talk a lot about these omega-3 fatty acids. that's fatty fish or seafood, salmon, sardines, cod liver oil. It doesn't sound appetizing. They have supplements for it, so you don't have to, take it, with a spoon if you can't tolerate that. Oysters, you can also do plant-based like flax seeds, chia seeds, walnut, algae oil. And then anything that's dark, colorful, cruciferous type vegetables, things that are rich in antioxidants, like kale, leafy greens, berries, cruciferous veggies, like I mentioned. And then nuts and seeds, but you want to try to do the raw nuts and seeds as much as you can. Whenever you roast seeds, it changes the integrity of the seeds. Whenever you take the raw nuts and you soak those, even better. So I don't know if you grew up ever soaking nuts, but that's actually a wonderful way to consume nuts. Just for reference, for people who want like a thyroid support, you could soak a couple Brazil nuts, eat 2 a day, and that will provide some, for most people, adequate thyroid support. And then herbs and spices, turmeric, ginger, garlic, oregano. Oregano is a big one for me. Cinnamon, rosemary, thyme, basil, cloves, all of these have potent anti-inflammatory properties. And then healthy fats. So we need to stop being scared of fat. We need to stop putting 1 drop of oil or using like Pam spray in our food. We do want to eat fats in our diet. However, we want them to be healthy. And so that's like avocado, olive oil, coconut oil, and just things that are rich in monosaturated fats. Now we're going to talk about what actually helps boost our immune system. So we're used to saying vitamin C, vitamin C, vitamin C. Yes, for sure. We want to get citrus fruits in there. Kiwi is also a great source. Papaya, guava, red bell peppers. Again, dark leafy greens, nuts and seeds, the same herbs and spices. And you also want to get some gut healthy fermented foods in there. Yogurt, kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut, bone broth. One caveat to that is that if you are highly inflamed, if you do have chronic illness, chronic allergies, if you have any sort of chronic mold exposure, mold toxicity, these fermented foods can sometimes aggravate that further. So if for any reason you're like, I do all these things and I don't feel good, you might want to look deeper into what could be happening. And then also healthy fats. You guys, like, don't be afraid of fats. Don't be afraid to eat red meat. If you could do grass-fed beef, that's even better. If you can do eggs whole, and you can find good quality pasture raised eggs that aren't being fed a bunch of GMO foods, even better. Again, Brazil nuts, chicken, pumpkin seeds. And then you want to kind of start, if you're one of those people that always likes to drink something hot, start looking into different teas. You can make ginger tea, turmeric tea. It doesn't have to be something caffeinated, hibiscus, um, different green teas. Matcha is a really like hot ticket item right now. Matcha is good for you in certain ways. It does contain antioxidants. However, it is extremely potent in caffeine. So when I say green tea, I'm leaning towards more of just a regular green leaf tea rather than a matcha. If you are doing a matcha, you want to do that earlier in the day. And then superfoods such as mushrooms, seaweed, beets, garlic. I know a lot of people are afraid of garlic, but it really is a superfood. And then some longevity enhancing foods. This is where the matcha comes in. This is where the dark chocolate comes in. Things that are rich in polyphenols. Again, teas, you want to focus on amino acids. Those amino acids in the protein that you're eating, in the lean meats that you're eating, in the wild caught fish and nuts. Those are all very important. And then fiber. Women, if you are perimenopausal, menopausal, fiber is even more important. Your cholesterol starts going up. Your body does not have that beautiful detoxification system that we normally get when we're menstruating. So we do want to start adding in even more fiber into our diet. Unfortunately, I see postmenopausal women really restricting because they don't want to eat too much, but they do want to get adequate fruits and vegetables and adequate protein and amino acids. And then again, antioxidant rich foods, berries are always great, pomegranates, grapes, dark leafy greens. Again, healthy fats. There's never a time where you don't want to eat healthy fats. It's not just important for your muscles and your body and your skin and your hormones, but it's really important for cognition. And then for longevity, medicinal mushrooms. I don't mean like shrooms like you would take like a shroom chocolate, but more like medicinal mushrooms. If you go to a farmer's market, a lot of times there are people who have a booth there and they have all types of mushrooms, and all of these mushrooms each have different specific magical powers. So if that's something that agrees with you, I would say look into that. And trying not to fry them or kind of alter their integrity, but trying to eat them as not raw, but almost, slightly sauteed so you don't kill all of the benefits in the food. So let's get into some supplements. I know most people don't like taking supplements. I know most of my family members don't like taking supplements. Getting them to take some oil of oregano is challenging sometimes. But there are really some supplements that are the bare basics that we should not be living without unless there's some sort of contraindication for it. So starting off, I talked a lot about omega-3s with food. There is a limitation with omega-3s when it comes to fish because of the high heavy metals like mercury. So we want to also make sure we're getting a very well-tested omega-3 EPA DHA supplement in our diet. Ladies, especially, this is so important for you. For people with high cholesterol, this is also very important. It's a general anti-inflammatory as well. And then curcumin or turmeric extract, it's also a very wonderful form of anti-inflammatory supplement. That with black pepper combined works even better. And you can add it in your food, but you also may want to consider taking a supplement if you have any sort of inflammation, if you have issues with your joints. And then frankincense extract or Boswellia serrata, this is also a wonderful anti-inflammatory, and it's great for your joints and gut inflammation. And then for immune boosting, vitamin D3, you want to have that combined with a K2 so it goes to where it needs to within the body. The one thing about vitamin D3 is I always tell people it's best to get some lab work done to see where you fall in the numbers. If you're extremely low, you want to take a higher dose. If you're moderately low, you want to take a moderate dose. The reason why that really matters is because it is a fat soluble vitamin. So you don't want to overdose on vitamin D. And next with immune health, zinc. Zinc is kind of something controversial. People say it works wonders for them. Some people say it doesn't. The one thing about zinc you want to keep in mind is that you don't want to take it long term without copper support because it does deplete the copper in your body. So something I recommend is to people to either take it every other day or to take it for 5 days and take a couple day break. Or, just take it and then take a little break and then take it again and take a little break, however you feel comfortable. It's again very essential for immune health function and helps you recover from colds and infections. It also really helps with wound healing. So one of the main things that we use in a clinical setting for wound healing is a multivitamin, zinc, and vitamin C. And then vitamin C again supports white blood cell function and it has antioxidant defenses, and it can also help in recovery of illness. And then for longevity and healthy aging, coenzyme Q10, if you're not taking that, you're worried about your cognition or long-term cognition or cholesterol, general cellular health, it's a wonderful supplement. Creatine is a super hot topic. It's naturally found in meat and fish and animal protein, and it's synthesized in the body. However, we're usually not getting enough. And it's people think, well, I don't lift weights, so I don't need to use creatine. But really, most of us can benefit a lot from creatine. It is anti-aging, and again, it's very supportive in cognitive health. It also enhances your ATP recycling, and it helps with muscle and brain tissue building. And then nicotinamide mononucleotide or NMN, NAD is a very hot topic. IVs, supplements, patches, they're everywhere. There's a lot of talk about how a patch is better because it slowly introduces the NAD to your body. There's also talks about how the best form to get it is through an IV because it gets right to the point and it bypasses the GI tract. But in order to just avoid all of this, I always say take NMN. That's a precursor to NAD, but it also supports your mitochondrial health and your DNA repair. So it's a wonderful supplement for that. Many people who have hair loss or just feel weak, tired, feel aged, again, postmenopausal women or perimenopausal women, a lot of them see big changes with NMN. And just some general lifestyle interventions. Anti-inflammatory lifestyle interventions. I mean, this is good for everything, but regular movement, 30 to 45 minutes minimum. I would say a minimum of really an hour, but if you're not even getting that 30 to 45 minutes, that's a wonderful place to start. It doesn't have to be anything high impact. You could walk, you could cycle, swim. A really great indication of how inflamed your body is to look at your C-reactive protein, your CRP. And once you decide that you want to get on, your next health kick, a good way to see if that's actually working or if you want to make some serious lifestyle changes is take a beginner C-reactive protein and then look at the progress in like the next 6 months or the next year. Another great anti-inflammatory tool is just general stress reduction and quality sleep. Not just sleep, but quality sleep. If you have chronic stress, or you have poor sleep, or you have untreated sleep apnea, and I'm not going to get into the details of where you can get sleep apnea from. It can be some sort of obstruction, tongue placement, a few extra pounds, sleep position. That's a whole other story, but just making sure that you're addressing poor sleep quality. If you're just not sleeping because of hormones, because of anxiety, stress, that's definitely something you want to look into. You can use mindfulness, meditation, breath work. Those are all wonderful tools, journaling. And then for immune boosting, you definitely want to get as much natural sun exposure, safe natural sun exposure as possible. Sunlight is a huge mood booster and immune booster. That natural vitamin D is very different than the supplemental vitamin D that we get. It is the quickest way for us to boost our vitamin D. You want your skin to actually feel the sun for about 15 minutes once or twice a day. And if you live in a climate where there isn't sun or it's a colder month, you want to try to get out at least and get some sunlight during the day, especially if you work in an office or if you're indoors all day. And then consistent 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Ladies, you want to be closer to 9. Men, you could be closer to 6 to 7. Everybody has their sweet spot, but sleep deprivation really suppresses immune function. If you have a child who is always tired or always sick, you want to make sure that they're breathing through their nose, not through their mouth. That's step one. If they're breathing through their mouth, you need to figure out why. And that in itself can resolve a lot of their immunity issues. If we don't breathe through our nose, again, that's impacting sleep quality. You do not want to be breathing through your mouth all the time. If you have a habit of doing that, you want to be mindful that your tongue is at the roof of your mouth, relaxed, and you're breathing through your nasal passage. If you have trouble sleeping, a good place to start would be to take maybe 300 to 600 milligrams of magnesium glycinate at bedtime if you're not already doing that. So that's something else you can consider. And then stress management again, yoga is a wonderful way to manage stress, especially like a yin kind of restorative yoga. And then for longevity, strength training and aerobic training combined is key. Yes, we want to get moving. And then when you get used to moving 45 minutes to an hour a day, then you start becoming more intentional about what type of movement. Again, strength training is not just for men, ladies, postmenopausal ladies. You need to lift weights. They don't have to be weights that are going to injure you. It could be starting very light, like 5 to 8 pounds, and then you can build up from that. Your bone health is very important. Even women before you conceive, you do want to make sure that you have enough muscle to support your body. Aerobic training is also very important in combination with that. So it's not just for your muscles and your bones, but it's also for your brain and your general longevity. Again, sleep and stress control. If you are not sleeping well, if you are chronically stressed, you can see how that impacts your telomere length. Your telomere length can actually be measured through testing, and that is actually a great indication of how long you may live or your longevity. And that's something that we see people improve on a lot when they improve their sleep, their stress management. And then intermittent fasting or time restricted eating. This is really a hot topic. It supports autophagy, which is like eating all the bad stuff, the bad cells in the body. It supports metabolic health, but it needs to be done safely. Intermittent fasting is not for everybody. Time restricted eating is a bit more general, which means it's that time that window that you eat within the day. So you could wake up, eat at 8 or 9 a.m., eat 3 meals a day, and stop eating at sunset. And that's really how we want to do intermittent fasting. Most people I know intermittent fast and start eating at 11 or 12. They start their day with a coffee. Already the body's taking a hit when you're starting your day with caffeine. So you want to start your fasting when the sun goes down. You want to start eating when the sun goes up. That also helps reset your circadian rhythm And that also helps with any sleep issues that you may be having. You do not want to eat a large meal before bed if you're having sleep issues. You want to give your body time to rest and fast before bedtime. And then finally, for longevity, one of the most overlooked and important things is social connection and having a sense of purpose. If all you've done your whole entire life is work or raise your kids, and all of a sudden, everyone's out of the house and you're retired and you don't have a purpose in life, that's not going to help you live a long, healthy life. It's very important to have those social connections and to find purpose in life outside of working or raising children or being exhausted all the time. So that's a very important aspect of longevity that many times you'll go to your doctor and they're not going to ask you, do you go out? Do you have a friend circle? Do you feel like you have a sense of purpose in this world? And that's something to really think about. And if you don't, might want to go out and try to find hobbies or things that you enjoy. Now, here are some other practices that I generally ask anyone to kind of focus on. Protein always comes first. That keeps your blood sugars balanced. That helps build muscle. That helps keep your energy balanced throughout the day. The goal is about 1 kilogram or 1 gram per pound of body weight. However, I always tell people start at 60 to 80 grams a day. And you want about 30 to 40 of that to be at breakfast. If you are not waking up hungry, or hungry within an hour of waking, there's something going on hormonally. So you should feel hungry within 30 minutes to an hour of waking. That could mean that your stress hormones are pumping throughout the night. So there's many different reasons why that could be happening, but just keep an eye on that. Once you get to 80 grams of protein and you start becoming more active or you start engaging in more resistance training, your body is going to ask for more protein. The more protein you have, the more muscle you'll be able to build, the more energy you're going to be able to sustain throughout the day. Hydration is also important. However, we don't want to be chugging water all day long. There are some people who are like, I drink so much water, but I'm always thirsty. That definitely should not be happening. First of all, you want to get about an ounce per kilogram of body weight. So if you want to know how many kilograms you weigh, it's pounds divided by 2.2. I also always recommend do not drink with your meals. Try to wait at least 15 minutes before your meal and 30 minutes after your meal is completed to drink beverages. When you drink with your meal, you're actually disrupting your digestion and you're diluting your hydrochloric acid, which is necessary to digest and absorb all the nutrients in your food. If you're ever bloated or always bloated after you're eating, one of the main things could be that you're drinking fluids with your food, and that can really help with that. I always recommend beginning your day with about 16 ounces of room temperature clean water. Now we'll get into what clean water is. Splash some fresh lemon lime in there with some pink salt. Again, I will tell you what pink salt, not all pink salt is created equal. Clean water practices are very important. That is the one thing I tell people to start with. Get a good water filter, a Brita, refrigerator water filter. That does not clear out a lot of the impurities of the water. And reverse osmosis is probably the most common, the easiest to find, and good. Spring water in glass is harder to do, but if you can have access to that, wonderful. If you have any chronic illness, I always recommend doing distilled and adding minerals to it because that pulls out almost all the impurities. So these are all good choices. It just depends on what you have access to. And then mealtime hygiene. So before we eat, like most people are eating while they're walking or standing or driving or not even breathing while they're eating. So wherever you are, sit down, take a few deep breaths before starting to eat. It's not just to calm your body down, which is one of the reasons why, because that puts you into rest and digest when you breathe. But it also signals to your body to start releasing that hydrochloric acid that it needs to be able to break down the food. Then you want to take about 20 to 30 minutes to complete a meal. I bet most of you here probably take about 3 to 5 minutes to complete your meal. If you can even stretch that to 15, that would be great. If you can even do this for one meal a day, that would be great if you do it for no meals right now. Also being mindful of not having the TV on, not having devices, distractions during mealtime. And then the containers you're eating and drinking out of are so important. Eating, drinking, cooking out of glass, stainless steel, pure ceramic is very helpful. When you are eating or cooking out of Teflon, I don't care if it's scratched or if it's brand new, you're still absorbing those chemicals, and it's very hard for the body to let go of those chemicals. And almost, most people don't let go of those chemicals. So those stick in the body, those back up the liver, they overwhelm the system. So as much as you can, especially when you're at home, you want to try to eat out of things that are not plastic or of any, made out of any toxic elements. And then with hot foods and beverages, definitely avoid disposable containers. You guys stop putting the disposable containers and the plastic containers in the microwave, please. I beg of you. Um, these forever chemicals are in the body forever. If you are, before you've ever had a baby, or you're pregnant, or you plan on being pregnant, you definitely don't want to have all these microplastics floating in your body. It does interfere with fertility, but even if you are able to conceive, it disrupts the gut and in turn disrupts the child's gut in the womb. Even if you're postmenopausal, women who do not get a period, people who do not sweat adequately, you hang on to these toxins even more. So invest in a non-Teflon air fryer, toaster oven, or like a stove that are the best ways to reheat your food. Do not use a microwave if possible. Caffeine, I mentioned this briefly. You want to try to wait at least 90 minutes from waking before consuming your first sip of caffeine. If this is a hell no for you, that's okay. At least drink that 16 ounces of water with lemon and salt before you consume your first sip of caffeine. Look into mold-free organic coffees, single source organic matcha, and unprocessed dairy alternatives. And bonus points if you have that caffeine after you have a nice protein-rich breakfast, about 30 to 40 grams of protein. We talked about meal timing. You want to eat at sunrise and stop eating around sunset. Intermittent fasting is not for everyone. We kind of already discussed this, but we do want to give the body time to rest. If we are eating around the clock, we're not giving the body time to clear out toxins. And then sleep, we already discussed this, 7 to 9 hours. Women on the higher end. I'm not just saying that because I'm a woman, but really because of the way that our body is built, we do need more rest. Our body is a lot more complex. And practice sleep hygiene. Dim your lights once the sun sets. Use red light. Use blue light protection glasses if you're on a device, if you're watching television after sunset. Don't take your device to bed and sleep next to it. Make sure your bedroom is dark at night, that it's cool enough that you're not hot. And have your own routine. Take a bath or a shower before bed. Play music, like calming music. Have a skincare routine, breath work, journaling, read a book. And then finally, with food quality. With meats, we want grass-fed, grass-finished if possible, poultry and eggs, pasture-raised, no grain, soy, corn, GMO foods fed to those chickens. Again, if the chickens have eaten GMO foods, we're eating GMO foods through the eggs in the chicken or the turkey. And then fats, coconut oil, grass-fed beef tallow, grass-fed butter, and then using olive oil on cold foods. I get a lot of questions about avocado oil. Avocado oil is not my favorite, but if it's avocado oil or sunflower, safflower, vegetable oil, definitely avocado oil. Just make sure it's pure avocado oil and read the ingredients on there. Fruits and vegetables, organic when possible, especially if it doesn't contain thick skin. You guys, a lot of people are eating berries that are not organic. It really defeats the whole purpose. You're getting, very little antioxidant for a lot of glyphosate. And that's not healthy for the gut or for development of children. For nuts, raw, organic. And then dairy, you want it to be organic. You want it to be whole. Do not do low fat, non-fat. Whenever they take the fat out, they're adding something else in. So remember that. And if you could get a grass-fed dairy, that's great too. And if you do want to have rice and grains, you want it to be organic, and it's best to soak or rinse those before cooking. Just to debunk a few myths, just for fun, I wanted to kind of complete things with kind of addressing some of the things we grew up thinking or fearing or worrying about or believing. Number one, all fat or cholesterol is bad. That is definitely not true. Stop being afraid of eating meat. Stop being afraid of eating eggs. If you do have high cholesterol and you do have a family history of heart disease, you can still eat fat. They have to be good fats. So again, you're going to go kind of on, the side of more olive oils and nuts and seeds and things like that, and fatty fish. My morning coffee is the only thing that gives me energy. I hate to break it to you. Your morning coffee is probably the thing that's taking your energy away. It's a false sense of energy. It's probably going to give you a big crash, especially if you're not eating adequately. If you do have that practice, it needs to be taken responsibly in order for it to actually give you energy. So it's possible for caffeine to give you energy. It just needs to be taken with the right time, the right food, and then kind of the right quality of caffeine or coffee. If I drink water with my meals, it will help me get full faster. That is a lie. And it will probably help you get bloated faster. So don't drink water with your meals, especially excessively, unless, God forbid, you're choking or something gets stuck in your throat. Intermittent fasting helps with weight loss for everyone. This is untrue, or else everybody would be running around with the body that they've always dreamt of. Um, Intermittent fasting can be very harmful for certain people and can actually make people gain weight long term. So just be mindful of that. And if you've experienced that, you may want to look into your thyroid and hormones a bit more. And then the only way to lose weight is being in a calorie deficit. Again, not true. Losing inflammation is the most important thing in weight loss. Again, otherwise, everyone would be walking around with the body that they love or feeling really great in their body. I'm just forgetful. I can't tell you how many moms think like they're just forgetful and it's like, normal. And this does not mean, God forbid, you have early Alzheimer's or dementia. A lot of times, pregnancy can cause forgetfulness because of a change in hormones. If you're on any sort of statins, which is a cholesterol lowering medication, that can affect your cognitive health because, again, the brain needs cholesterol and the hormones need cholesterol to function optimally. If your nervous system is disrupted, you're going to forget a lot of things. You might want to do more vagus nerve reset exercises. So being forgetful, or you could have like a deficiency. You could be low in vitamin D. You could need more omega-3s. So just don't overlook that and just say, I'm just forgetful. And then salt causes high blood pressure. Again, untrue. Processed food may cause high blood pressure. Stress causes high blood pressure. Maybe some physical issues that have accumulated in time can cause high blood pressure, but salt by itself does not. And in fact, our body needs salt in order to absorb any water that we're drinking. So I always say, if you're drinking any sort of filtered water, you want to actually add a pinch of salt in there. When you're cooking, you want to add good quality salt to your food, not oversalt it, but you do need salt in your food. And indigestion or other digestion issues is or are caused by too much acid in the stomach. This is, again, not true. Most of us don't have enough stomach acid, and most of us are not breaking down food because we're interfering with something that's not giving us enough hydrochloric acid to break down food. There are some physical issues that can happen with digestion. There are issues with the stomach that can happen. If you've been overweight for many years, there's something that's called a hiatal hernia that can cause the acid to reflux. But usually indigestion is not caused by too much acid in the stomach, or GERD is not caused by too much acid in the stomach. And also, side note, it is extremely dangerous to take antacids or proton pump inhibitors long term. That can actually cause deficiencies in other very essential vitamins and minerals. So just a little bit of the debunking myths. I like to do that because I think people are still thinking certain things that are actually not valid, and it's impacting the choices that they're making in their diet and lifestyle. So I just want to thank you all for joining. Again, focusing on immune health and this inflammation, longevity is really important for whatever that you want to address in your health. I've actually experienced that when people have a slow and steady practice of getting well, it is a forever thing for them. And people who just want a quick fix are going to be on this roller coaster for the rest of their lives. I hope that this kind of encouraged you, gave you some tools, gave you some things to start with. There's definitely a lot more to discuss. I am going to be teaching a course on more functional health and looking into functional testing and deeper things that you want to look into with lab work, because I find that people do well with looking at numbers,